Alright, so 2-minute Tanya tidbit for today. So today we have the introductory letter which Alter Rebbe writes for the Tanya. Now, out of his great humility, he refers to himself as a malakit, a compiler, because Alter Rebbe doesn't say that he has new chidushim and brand new ideas to say. Rather, he says, I'm just collecting a bunch of thoughts which were spoken before. Now, the Alter Rebbe comes to address a problem with this letter. The general idea of why the Tanya was printed is because the Alter Rebbe said there's too many people coming for Yechidus and I don't have enough time to address every person individually. And therefore I'm going to write this book which will be all the answers for all the people who could come to me in Yechidus, and instead you can read this book and you'll know the answers to your questions. The problem is that there are three issues that come when it compares to reading a book versus coming to the Rebbe in Yechidus. And that's the three questions that Alter Rebbe is going to say over here in this idea of the letter of the Tanya, and we'll answer it in tomorrow's portion of the Tanya. So the three questions which come are like this. The Alter Rebbe says, firstly, how can you compare seeing and hearing? In general, when someone comes to someone else, I'm able to speak to you, I can talk to you enough time to make sure that you actually understand what I'm saying, you actually see what I have to say, and therefore when someone comes to the Rebbe in Yechidus, the Rebbe can explain it until he understands properly. But how can you say that you're going to understand all of my issues and be able to make sure I understand it properly? Could be I won't have the right head to be able to understand what you're saying when I'm only reading it in a book. That's question number one. How can you try to replace seeing someone with reading it in a book? Second question is the fact that in general, how can you know that you're going to address my issues? As in general, when it comes to Torah, with not even Torah books, when it comes to advice from someone else, you can't say that you're going to know what the other guy is thinking, what the other guy has a problem with. So how can Alter Rebbe say, this is a general book with answers for anybody's questions? How can you know my questions and know what problems I have? You can't know exactly what's going on in my heart. How can you inspire me without even hearing my question? And the third point is, even if you're going to say that this is a Torah book, and therefore Torah is connected to every single person, it's true that Torah is connected to every single person. But everybody has their own parts of Torah which they're more connected to, things that relate to certain different people differently. And therefore we even find that there's arguments in Talmud where there's one person who's going to be lenient, one person is going to be strict, because he has his own portion in Torah. So even if you're going to say that Torah applies to everybody equally, but you have to be able to find your part of the Torah. And how can you know that you're going to address my part of the Torah with over here by writing a book? A general book can't address my issues. So how do you expect that you're going to be able to answer all of my problems with this book called the Tanya? And that's what the Alter Rebbe is going to answer tomorrow, that the book of Tanya is special and it doesn't have these three issues, as we will see tomorrow. See you then.